morning. So thanks for coming, everybody. Particularly thanks to members of the public who raved it up the stairs. So you're very welcome. And I also want to welcome Sarah, Councillor Sheard, who's I think intending, is that the right word? Intending to join the committee. So this is Sarah's first meeting with the planning committee. Right. So the first item in the agenda is an open session on planning. So this is the opportunity for members of the public to speak for 3 minutes, and kind of what I was trying to hold you to the 3 minutes. And then after you've spoken, then I'll ask to suspend standing orders so that councillors can question members of the public if they wish. And I will also move the items about which you're speaking up the agenda, so you don't have to sit through the discussion of the 33 planning applications. Right. So our first member of the public is Holly Barton. Thanks.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, everybody. The reason for coming to Planning Committee this evening is my name is Holly Barton and I live at 27 Ryfields in Scholes, a property that shares a rear boundary with our home and has submitted a planning application for a 2-storey rear extension. Now, I just wanted to really echo the Parish Council's comments from previous planning application where there was support for the 2-storey rear extension, but the comment was made in terms of subject to no overlooking. Now, my thanks again to Councillor Walker for coming to our home yesterday, because I think it's really from coming to the house that you actually understand the difference of levels. So not only really is there this projection from the existing building line of 49 Ryfields, which is the application site, to our own home, the actual distance in real terms, once you're on the ground, actually is a lot different in terms of the concerns that we have associated with overlooking and loss of privacy. It's a concern that we have not really for ourselves or just for ourselves, but also for our immediate neighbours and actually the applicants themselves. As I say, it's really from coming to our home that you understand the difference of levels. Kirklees Council, as you might be aware, published a supplementary planning document only earlier this year, and that includes a separation distance of 21 metres. Now, albeit there is an original extension which already kind of cuts into this separation distance, that's only limited to single storey at 49 Ryfields. So the difference that you get by way of the new extension is that it's a double storey, and so we consider that this shortfall to the recent SPD, it's a real kind of technical concern that we've got. I just, as I said, wanted to echo what the planning committee said last time. Me and my partner, we both understand and appreciate people wanting to make modifications to their homes and extend them and make adaptations, but unfortunately in this instance we think there's real concerns that it would be to the detriment of ourselves but also potentially others as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks very much. Right, ask if we could suspend standing orders so that councillors can ask questions. Yeah, I'm happy with that. Yeah, thank you. Okay. So does anybody have a question?
The only question I've got, Mary, you've been to this property.
I have.
Obviously the lady has a vested interest. You as an individual, as a council looking at it. How do you see it? Does it cause a problem with visibility? Is there any windows that's overlooking? Because it's windows overlooking that was a major factor. Other people talk about light and one thing and another, and that takes away privacy and whatever, but in some cases it doesn't. It makes it more private in some cases, and that's what people don't obviously want. How do you see it as a straightforward individual?
If you don't mind, Paul, if I'll answer that when we get to the item, because it is on the agenda. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay. Thanks. Has anybody else got any question?
Hi there. Holly. Is it actually 21 metres the distance between your home and the proposed building?
So it's quite an interesting one, and I don't have the benefit of kind of technical drawings to be able to measure it myself, but based on having a look at Google Maps, for instance, it looks like when the two houses, because they were built, I believe, around the same time, approved at the same or a similar time, the original building line of our property and the application site in its original form prior to its original extension looks to be in the region of 21 metres. And as I say, they've had an extension which I think is probably 10-15 years old. No issues with that, albeit it cuts into that 21 metres. But because there's screening, because it's single storey and it's up here and we're sort of down here, and there's the benefit of both rear gardens, it doesn't really, I think there was no kind of, even if the 21 metres had been around then, this shortfall, I think, could have been justified in planning terms because of the screening and points like that. Whereas with it extending above now, the distance, the shortfall to the 21 metres, it's in the region of about 3 metres, we believe. So it is quite what I would consider potentially a significant shortfall. Does that answer your question? I'm sorry if I've just rambled.
I'm not sure, mate. They're talking about 21 metres between houses. 90% of houses they built, there isn't 21 metres between them.
I think that these are stipulations in the new supplementary planning documents, so for around extensions.
Yeah.
So yes, I
All
guess
I'm getting at is you had houses where there was a yard in between, and there were no windows at those points, and there was a wall. And so it is as if every house is 21. I think 21 metres is the visibility display, or whatever display that you've got to have for amenity display. When you talk your house at Ryfield, on which side of Ryfield is it? Is it on the dotted side?
Ryfield's.
I know Ryfield very well.
Yeah, it's the cul-de-sac.
Yeah.
So ours is on the cul-de-sac side of it.
At the top of the first one, at the dotted side.
If we're coordinating correctly, then yes. So if you go off St George's
Road and go straight up.
Yeah, and it's the first one on the left. It's the.
Oh, it's that cul-de-sac to the left on there. Yeah.
Right.
Thanks.
So I'm just trying to weigh up when you're talking about levels and things of that nature. And I was just trying to work out. I was thinking the only ones that did any problem with levels was the one on the right hand side going up directly up, because they were stepped up those.
Yeah, so if you're going along St George's Road before you get to Brooklands, and you turn left, and then you immediately turn left again.
Into that little avenue, like a little avenue with a turn at the end.
We're kind of in danger of discussing the item at the moment, so I think we will. So I think we'll move on to our. Oh, sorry.
Can I ask you a very quick question? What do they actually overlook? Do they stare right in your windows, or is it the general space?
So what I would anticipate what they're seeking to do is benefit from the view that looks over the house. However, obviously, eyes don't work. I mean, sometimes it would be fantastic if they did, but eyes don't work like that. Eyes work, obviously, we've got quite a clear vision. It would look directly into our garden and into our kitchen, our master bedroom, bathroom, but obviously we've got obscure glazing there anyway, so.
Fine, okay, thanks.
It's no problem.
Okay, anybody else? Any questions? Thanks. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
So, do you want to stay and listen to the item when we discuss it?
I mean, if it would be helpful for me to stay in case there's any more questions.
It's entirely up to you. I guess we may well.
You're bringing to the planning list anyway.
Yes, we need to bring it forward. Yeah. Is that okay?
No, that's fine. Thank you.
Thanks.
Ask you a quick question. Would it be in order for us to discuss it in private?
I don't think it's necessary. I would say it's not necessary to discuss it in private. No. Right, shall we move on to our other three members of the public who wish to talk about Magdale?
Yes.
I think we're going to the orders, so I think Lynn is speaking first.
Yes.
Is that right? Yes. Okay, you're three. 3 minutes.
Right, well, I'm here tonight to put forward a case for a safer Magdale, a campaign for a safer Magdale. In 2006, after a lot of work by residents, we were given a quiet lane status, for which we were all really, really pleased. But of course, as things have turned out, it isn't a quiet lane. It was given a 20 mph status, which again we were pleased about because there are no footpaths, it's grass verges, there's no designated line. So it's really a very narrow road, 15 foot at the widest part, 10 foot at the narrowest part. We are completely plagued by fast cars driving along here. I mean, we're talking about here a conservation area which is adjacent to Magdale Fields. It's an amenity for walkers, for horse riders, for cyclists. It's been a lifesaver over lockdown. And we want to protect this. We feel passionate about this area. And every day we are plagued by very fast vehicles. If we stop people, they're often abusive. They say, but I was going at 20. Well, I can't argue whether they were going at 20 or not. But when you're passing a group of school children walking to Honley, 20 miles per hour is too fast. And everybody feels, I mean, we've had a meeting with all our neighbours along the road, and we all feel threatened. It's a case of coming out of your house, you should feel safe, but I'm afraid you don't. I mean, there is a structural weight of 3 ton gross for heavy vehicles, and that includes Steps Bridge at the bottom. And of course, there is a real danger of subsidence on this road, because the natural slope is towards Magdale Down. It's not so long ago since this road was tarmacked, I can't tell you exactly when, but already there's quite a dip, because the vehicles that come, if they're not speeding, they're overweight. So we thought we've got to find a solution for this. We've got to come up with some kind of physical barrier that will slow people down and say to them, this is a very special area in Huddersfield, we need to keep it special.
It's the only one in Yorkshire.
Yeah, I mean, it's the only quiet lane in, well, certainly in the whole valley, and I think the first one in West Yorkshire. And of course, on top of this, we've got 250 houses being built at Netherton, and I'm not quite sure how many at Scottgate. So we've seen no provision on any plans for how these houses, how the traffic's going to move from Netherton onto the main road or Meltham or wherever. So of course we as residents, and even if I wasn't a resident, I still would feel passionate for this area. We think that there should be some traffic calming measures. It is a conservation area, so I feel plateaus, pinch points, something that says, look, you cannot use this road as a rat run. This is not a quick way to get from the main road to another area. And I think the signage needs improving. I mean, we have got 30-ton limit signs up there, but it says for access only, and you say to people, but where are you going?
Manchester.
And they say, oh, well, yeah, you're going to Manchester, but that's not accessing, I mean, that's a joke, of course, they don't say
It
Manchester.
depends what that says.
So there's always an excuse when you say to a motorist, look, pedestrians are important, and even more so I think now in this world we live in, that we have to make sure that people are protected. So, you know, can we have some calming measures of some kind? Could we have possibly a neon speed sign slowing people down. There is an electric point for this.
There was temporarily.
Yeah, there was one there temporarily.
I think you probably had to
Yes.
3 minutes.
Thank you.
I think I've said
Yeah,
everything.
perhaps just and also just remind councillors that we've had documents in the pack, so we've had your copy of your document, which is the campaign for safer Magdale, and also a copy of an email from 2006. I think was it? Yeah. Right.
That's
Okay.
right.
So we are in possession of some of the
I
facts
don't need
already.
to say much because Lynn has
Thank you.
presented that very well.
Okay.
But to give people an impression, that a transit van, Tesco van, is 3 tonne gross weight. That's the size of the vehicle according to Kirklees. And it's not just the speeding vehicles or the overweight vehicles, it's the density of the traffic. And the quiet lane proposers will say that when they measured the traffic coming up and down the road, it was less than 500 at that period of time. But I noticed, looking at the updated information from the Natural England, you cannot apply for you cannot apply for a quiet lane if you have 1,000 vehicles going up or down during that day. But it's not retrospective. But we are very much in danger of that happening with Netherton and South Scotsgate and the other building projects that are going on. And it's only because it's a line of least resistance they're using that road now. So I think we need to have some respect for the reasons why we were given this privilege of having a quiet lane designated. That'll be fine.
Thank you. Thanks very much. Thanks for being admirably brief. Curtin,
Could I just reiterate I'm Kirk Schramm, I live at the top of Magdale. My major concern, and it should be everyone's concern, there's going to be some children having accidents from the school. I can't reiterate, if only someone could come along and spend a day watching the flow of traffic. It is dangerous, I'll be perfectly honest with you. As you rightly said, there's no pavements. The road at its narrowest point is 10 feet. Something has to be done. I don't know what the options are, maybe speed bumps, maybe making it a one-way system which would then put off the flow of traffic from the main road. What is happening is people are coming off the main road by the Texaco station at the bottom. They're turning right, they're using it as a cut-through to go to Netherton, wherever it may be, Meltham in some cases. And it is causing major problems. You also have quite a lot of businesses now at the bottom in the industrial area, including a nursery. So when the children come out of the nursery, some are walking, some aren't, some are in cars. It would be better if people could almost be told to turn left back onto the main road instead of right through Magdale. Maybe some form of one-way system would work. At the very least, speed bumps are needed. It is getting wholly dangerous. There was an accident, wasn't there, a few months ago where someone drove along there near us down at 40-50 miles an hour and took a load of the walls out. It really is unacceptable what's happening there.
Road to Charlotte.
Yes.
And it's dangerous. That is what I wish to reiterate. Someone is going to get hurt at some point, and that concerns me.
Lots of school children using that route.
Well, they all walk up from Honda through up to Netherton, and huge numbers of children walking from there. Also, we've had problems with fly tipping. We've had problems with drug dealers pulling up at the side of the road by the woods. It's not good. It's not good what's going on around there. But leave it with you, so that's
Thank you.
They all enjoy living there.
Suspend standing orders for councillors.
Mary, please.
I think
I did
you
that,
first,
yeah.
and then
It's a problem, a bigger problem with all these new houses going up at Netherton and at Scottgate. So the last gentleman mentioned having a one-way system. I think the one-way system has to come from Huddersfield Road.
correct.
Not from Magdale, not from the Netherton end.
Yeah.
And I think that is the only way, because otherwise it's going to, as long as we've got rats, we'll use a rat run. And we've got rats, and we can't get rid of them all. And what you've got down there is a rat run. People like to live down there because they like to be peaceful and they like to do it their own way. I know it's going to be unfortunate if you go to Homley to do your shopping from Magdale and you go in the car and you have to go up the hill and then you've got to go right down Woodstock Road to get back and not come back up Church Street and down. But I think that is the only way that you're going to get any form of a sensible
And it would inconvenience us as
traffic.
well, you know, because I come off the main road, so I'd have to find another way, but it needs some no entry signs on that bridge. Really does.
I think people have got to be aware of the situation and we've got to get the best possible. And if to keep the numbers to the slow road or whatever we call it, the status of that, it means that there's going to be traffic travelling one direction, not both. And I'm sorry if it upsets any of the natives around there, because it's going to make it very inconvenient for people that live down there having to make excursions and diversions and whatever. But I think it is the way that I would see it going forward, because otherwise it'll still be a rat run. And it will be for the benefit of, if you've got a lot of people at Netherton, new houses with young children, and they decide to go to the Homley nursery, if you're going to get an extra 10 or 12 cars every day down for that particular reason, it's again going to cause a problem, isn't it?
Thank you. Thanks, Dixon.
I think it's something the Parish Council should very, very strongly support. It's a unique area, as we say, the whole of West Yorkshire, not Yorkshire. There are not, as we've mentioned, many quiet lanes at all. And it is a unique community asset. I've been there a number of times and it's just a lovely place to go to. So on one side, the council, we should support it as a local amenity and keep it that way. Secondly, we should support it because it's going to be a very, very dangerous place for children, residents, anybody up there at all. We've discussed many a time the number of houses that are going to appear. That will only get worse, so now is probably the time to put something in place to put that line in the sand that says, no, this is going to be a unique conservative zone area. I think we need to look into supporting anything at all, but certainly the residents, locals, anybody wants to put forward and help choose the right option for them to go there.
It is on the agenda, so we'll move it. We will.
Yep,
We'll move
just
it. Has
saying.
anybody got any further questions?
Just one point. The residents of Magdale and Homley do a lot of work on the trust land right adjacent to Magdale, and so it's not because we are just sitting back and hoping this happens. We actually actively every month put a lot of work into cutting back weed and attending to the water levels in the dam and all this, and cutting the grass. And you'd be amazed that it hasn't been to see what is done.
Thank you. I mean, it's possible when we come to these items on the agenda, we might have questions for you. But
Hi there. Have you discussed having a complete dead end? So just.
I would love the whole thing blocked up. There would be nothing give me greater pleasure, but I don't want to push on. I know they do it in a lot of the London boroughs. I worked in East London for a number of years, for 20 years in Walthamstow, and the council implemented in the Walthamstow village area, which was a conservation area, a policy of actually blocking the roads off. Actually, it was against the residents' wishes. The residents didn't want them blocking off, but the council were trying to force the vehicles back onto the main arterial roads because they were actually using that as a rat run as well. But the residents weren't happy because they wanted to be able to park their vehicles, emergency vehicles were struggling to get in. But yeah, if there was any chance of blocking the whole thing off, it's great, but I don't want to push it on, that's all.
I think that's to be impractical.
I think you're right. I think you're absolutely right. And that's why I said the one-way system would work. Yeah.
With
Yes.
speed plateaus.
With
Because
speed
if you have a
One-way
one-way
system with
system,
speed
you have
plateaus, yeah,
speed
yeah.
You've got to
plateaus.
have speed flashes.
Yeah, yeah, but the way of thinning it down to 50% of volume is a one-way system that would definitely work and has been proven in other areas as well.
right,
I do feel speed bumps would really reduce people
Yeah.
whizzing along.
Mm.
It's a
Mm.
problem.
But it's the density of the traffic as well that's the problem.
Fumes.
Yeah.
It's the
People
density.
want banning altogether.
We've also got
Interviewing me,
climate.
driving.
We have different views.
Could I just emphasise we have a climate emergency?
Yes.
And you're in a site
Absolutely.
of natural
Yeah.
beauty and protected
Mm.
biodiversity there is.
And
really
stationary
important.
vehicles aren't good.
Absolutely.
Right, thank you everybody. So we'll have a chance to have another talk about it in a few minutes' time. So we have a number of procedural items to go through now on the agenda before we come back to these two issues. So the first one is item 99, which is parish council meetings can be recorded. So I need to check whether any members of the public want to do any any recording additional to that that we're doing here. Does anybody want to do any? No?
That's fine.
Thank you, thanks very much. And then the next item is apologies, and I think we've perhaps not been doing this quite right in the past, because what we ought to do is to agree to the reason for somebody having apologised, not to agree to the absence. Is that right?
That is correct.
That is correct. Right. So we have apologies from Rich.
From Councillor Colleen and from Councillor Hogley.
Right.
Yeah, but you need-
Do we have reasons?
We do, yeah, no, I
Is that
mean,
anything
everybody's been emailed them, you probably haven't picked up your email, Councillor
I
Hogley.
haven't seen any. So I told you before, I have enough trouble with emails, never mind emails.
Right, so we're approving the reasons for absence. Is that, yeah?
Yeah.
People happy to approve?
Well, there should have been one from me, but
Right.
unfortunately, I can't isolate.
Paul. Right, item 101, to receive members and officers' personal and disclosable pecuniary interests in items on the agenda. Has anybody?
I've just noted one.
Anybody anything to
I've
declare?
noted one, 21, 22, 06, 07. First place farm. First place farm.
Could you remind us again around that?
Is a farm client.
Thank you. And then the item 102, to consider written requests for new DPI dispensations. Are there those which no? Thank you. Right. And then item 102, 103, discover whether items on the agenda should be discussed in private. Anybody think?
No.
No discussion in private. Right, and then item 104, to confirm the minutes of the previous meeting, which we've all had.
Yeah.
Everybody
No.
happy?
Proposed.
Show of hands, you happy? Proposed? Yeah, thank you, seconded. Thank you. Okay, right. So we're going to move first of all, to move up item 114, which is 49 Ryefields up the agenda. Just perhaps to remind councillors, because it was some time ago that what we decided on the agenda, what we decided then was to support that application subject to no overlooking. And maybe now, Paul, I'll answer your original question, which was I've been to see, and what struck me was actually the difference in levels, which you can't really, it's not so obvious on a flat plan, you can't really see that the existing extension, which Holly spoke about, is already fairly obtrusive, I would have thought, and also the latest, if you haven't looked together, the plans, the latest plan has a mass of glazing on the wall which is facing Holly's house. So it seems to me there is a substantial amount of overlooking.
It's obvious there's a problem. Why it's been, we don't know about the heights and the levels. But obviously, if the Kirkley planning inspector has been out to look at the site and to check the window distances and one thing and another, obviously they would have found it. And at that juncture, as if this has been approved already.
No, it hasn't.
It hasn't been
It hasn't
approved.
been approved. No, there's no decision yet.
I think if that is the case, then with what you've just said, this application, we should notify Kirklees Council that we have had formal discussion with the applicant's neighbour, and it would appear that it is in contravention with what planning we understood when we made our first decision. It is not, it's going to be overlooking, and that can they make a special effort? It's obvious because of COVID, they'll be working off a computer, and they won't have gone out on site and seen the potential pitfalls that is likely to happen. And I feel sorry for the lady, but that is what is happening at the minute. And so if we could do that, please,
Thanks very much.
that's my proposal.
So I've got Andy and then Tom.
Yeah, just take that point a bit further. Could we actually ask that the plans do attend site like we were? Because they wouldn't necessarily, would they?
No, that's what I'm meaning with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, if we make a specific request for them to do that.
Tom?
Yeah, I don't know if we can reverse the decision if it was only made within the last 6 months. So we've decided to support this is subject to overlooking. I say that big time, subject to overlooking.
Yeah.
So that should flag something with Kirklees. Unfortunately, we can't reverse our decision, and we made it, and we made a mistake because we didn't see these things.
We haven't made a mistake, we're not wrong, John. What we're doing is, we're now informing Kirklees that we've been made aware
Right.
that this plan is going to cause overlooking.
Yeah.
And we said in our original approach, as long as there was no overlooking, we are not changing our minds.
No.
Yeah.
We are sticking to our decision, which was to grant planning permission subject to no overlooking. And there is obviously, from what Mary's told us, on looking at it on site, there is openly overlooking.
So we're adding further information into what we said before.
Yeah, we're almost
Okay.
strengthening our statement.
Right.
I don't, we're not changing, we're not
Yeah.
saying we're not supportive
Yeah.
anymore. What we're saying is we're just strengthening the statement about
Yeah, we're not going to stand decision, unfortunately.
Yeah.
We can't do that.
We know what we are, we don't need to, Thomas.
Okay, yeah.
We've no need to. Our
So,
statement was correct. Our statement was correct. That if there had been no overlooking, the planning application could have gone ahead. It's because of this overlooking factor and the window factor that's caused it.
Fine. So, can I ask just for a show of hands that we take that course of action, that we communicate again, thank you, with Kirklees planning and we strengthen the statement about overlooking now we have additional information and we've seen the new plans. Happy with that?
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Also, if individual councillors want to write to Kirklees and submit comments, they're able to do so. If you want to do that in areas, as a ward councillor, you can do that from your own personal point of view. It's not to do with he can do it, anybody else can do. Like you would be doing.
I'm not sure whether you know about it, but Paul Dixon is the other schools councillor. So a very, very long standing, yeah. Nice.
Not long standing, I've only been on it 37
38 years.
38 years.
Yeah.
So thanks
Yeah,
very
you
much.
joined the council
Yeah,
quite
but-
long. So you can't remember all
I
of
mean,
it.
you're welcome to stay for the rest, but thank you very much for
When
coming.
you were on, I got a council.
Yeah, I was on board about 2 months after this. So yeah, that's a month, so that's why you joined the council. So you should know how you have my points.
Thank you.
Right, so I'm going to ask permission of the committee to move forward item 113, which is a Magdale item to this point in the agenda. People happy with that? Right. We've had a lot, we've had some additional information. We've had the original information that you sent. Is there any council would like to propose a way ahead on this one? Thank you, Tom.
I totally agree with what you said about Magdale. I've walked around there myself before. It's all over the place. And narrow and countryside. It's the kind of place where these people in their cars go and drive very fast and act like idiots. And there's areas like this, I suppose, in all of our wards. My ward's Hepworth. It's quite another quiet space, but you get people driving around there too fast. We've got Holmbridge on the agenda for later on as well, which is having similar problems. It's not just the Magdale issue, it's an issue in many areas in the Home Valley.
Mm.
And it's a difficult one because as a parish council, we don't have much teeth about something like this, but I think this could be something that we do contact Kirklees about to try and get some kind of resolutions on. Like with some of the other areas, like look, Magdale's probably the only 20 mile an hour area in the Home Valley. There's Magdale, and there's a middle one that's 20 miles an hour as well, isn't there, I think? I don't think there's anywhere else which is 20 miles an hour. And some people in Hepworth wanted it, and I would want it as well, but it doesn't seem to make much difference when people just ignore it.
No difference.
So it could be 20 miles an hour, it could be 60 miles an hour, it doesn't matter. People will drive at what speed they think is right, unless there's some cameras there, or some speed cameras, not speed cameras, but also speed bumps. Because once you've gone over a speed bump too fast, and you mess up your car, you're not going to do that again, you're going to be more careful next time. Or you'll just slow down when the speed bump is and you'll speed right up again. So, I think we need to kind of write to Kirklees about this, whoever it is who's involved with it, and get you guys here probably for the meeting, get the guys from Dunbridge here for the meeting, probably have it in a bigger room because there's probably a lot of people who want to talk about these issues because it's happening across a lot of areas and it's something that we need to kind of like show some teeth for these guys, stick up for these guys in these areas to try and help them with this problem that's blighting their lives and in the other areas of the Home Valley, and try and get Kirklees to do something about it and take it seriously. Whether it's speed bumps or one-way system, which is a good idea. It could be something you do in some of these other places. Could be something like that. I don't know what the solution is.
We can't do stuff like was suggested.
Sorry,
Sorry.
if you finish.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think we need to kind of contact the relevant people at Kirklees, maybe invite them to a meeting or to kind of stick up for these guys, show some support for what they're doing. You've got, it seems like you've got an active group, there's 3 of you tonight, there's probably loads more from Magdale. And show some support for these guys, maybe a letter of support for what they're trying to do. That might not do much, we might have to have meetings or something like that with Kirklees people. I don't know, it's a difficult one to solve because they'll have their budget restraints as well. And you do want to get a 20 mile an hour limit because we tried to get one in Epworth. And you have to jump through all these hoops and different things to get them. I'm always thinking, why has Magdale got one? And all these other places that have one, it's not there. But it doesn't matter.
Kirklees make a meal out of everything.
Right, we've got two more council wanting to speak. First of all, Paul and then Andy.
I think a meeting with Kirklees on all these issues might be a little bit futile. I think the cheapest and the simplest way, a lot of the residents, if you did a survey of all the residents and asked them which end you wanted the no entry, someone wanted at one end and someone wanted at the other. Because there's all this development at the Holmley end, near to Netherton and the other developments that are going ahead, I think what we have got to do is, as a big council, we have got to support the residents and state that the only way that I would see forward would be the one-way system and make it one way from Huddersfield Road through, because the people still need to get to the houses. Some people will be working in Huddersfield and working in other directions, and to get from Huddersfield Road might be better than having to come through the centre of Holmley. And that end blocked off would mean that nobody would be coming from the Holmley, Netherton directions to go down Magdale. I'm sorry for those that live at the top end of Magdale, that they're going to have to suffer the inconvenience of going round, but I don't see another solution, because if we get any more cars, it's going to negate the amount of traffic that you have to have for your low restriction order, and that's what I don't want to see go. You'll have more cars if you keep it open, and I think we should ask Kirklees. And what's it going to cost Kirklees? 2 men a day's work, putting 2 bollards up, putting two metal signs up. It's not going to take long. It'll take a day to make them and a day to put them in.
But that's not going to stop people speeding.
No, but it isn't going to stop people speeding, but it's going to keep the amount of traffic down.
No, it's true actually, it will make people speed more. The other day I went to the one-way system in Wardale that there is, and I was walking up the hill, And once I was walking up the bit where the cars come down, and the car sort of flew down past me down there.
Yeah.
And people do that because there's no cars coming away. Sorry, you're right.
Sorry, Tom, Andy was waiting to
Yeah,
speak.
sorry, Andy.
I think there was a point about there's a lot of commonality with what's happening elsewhere in the area. And to be fair, it's not just in Kirklees, it's probably countrywide.
Oh, yes.
There's problems all over. And okay, we can only deal with our patch, but perhaps we ought to be looking for common solutions across the patch rather than a piecemeal approach. And there are some common things. I know I've been in the Lake District recently, and these are what they use in there.
Yes, yes, yes,
So
that sort of thing.
You know, look at
It won't make any difference to the amount of people travelling up or down. I think the council that spoke before is correct. I think blocking it off, but I would go further. I would also put the speed humps. I'd block it off at one end and have it no entry at one end with speed humps as well.
The beauty of these, the cheap in
Yeah, but
because
people ignore.
the
Now,
way they affect it.
If you said to me a speed camera is set at 10 miles an hour, I'd probably agree with you, because that'll put people off.
That's what they do. That tells you speed.
But does it book
Yes,
people?
but they
No.
You know, if you could fine people 50 quid for going faster than 20 miles an hour, the council would make an absolute fortune. So if that's an option, by all means.
The council will say it's not within their grasp.
Sorry, that's a bit of order here. Darren?
Okay, so bring us to a point. What's our decision going to be?
Sorry.
What's our decision going to be?
I think the first thing that we do, because we've got a lot of information from you previously. We've got
Yes.
a lot more information which Richard has been recording now. So I would suggest that the immediate way ahead. Sorry.
Oh, excuse me, it's just that I am your parish councillor.
Oh,
You're
fine.
so I do feel, you know, I need to make that sort of point.
Yeah, they didn't know that.
Yeah, so I do feel that maybe speed bumps is the thing that would slow down
It
traffic.
would.
I do.
And a one-way system. I do both. You'd solve the problem in one
So
instance.
are we
I think that.
moving
Sorry,
in
I think
more
that.
information than
I think
discussing?
the way ahead is perhaps not for us to suggest a solution at this point, but to list those solutions that you have, that we have collectively now.
I think we should
put
strongly
forward.
support it.
The major point there, as regards having it one way, is the fear
If we can
of all
discuss-
the
we can
extra
discuss this.
all the
We
extra
can
traffic.
discuss this later, surely.
It's the
What we
fear
need
of all
to
the
do is
extra
support
traffic.
very much what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
The actual physicality of what is a decision for later on.
So
But we must really support it.
yeah,
Yeah, but if we were to go one step further forward,
Yeah,
And
but
so they-
we're not at that stage. We've got a lot to discuss.
we are because
We're not.
the other bits like speed bumps and things like that, you can look at them afterwards. Once you've got that, that one way system in order, you will find out what reaction
I think there needs to
people
be-
after that,
I think
and then get that up. Because if we don't get it up now, it'll be too late.
I think what we do is, because we're getting a lot of these types of issues, and I think we're always developing a way of dealing with them, which is to write a fairly lengthy letter really to Kirklees officers, listing what the issues are, expressing very strong support for the work that you're doing. Listing what the problems are, listing what are possible solutions, because none of us are traffic engineers, so there are probably issues that we don't understand. So I think possibly I might ask if Councillor Shear might, if we can put a document together, and then perhaps would you be able to liaise with the group? Yeah.
Do we need to
Absolutely.
send her on to the committee?
We do.
We should do that, shouldn't we? Of course you can do that.
Yeah, we should.
We should.
We should do that now.
We could ask you to represent you.
Yeah.
We could ask you to represent you.
Sarah Sheep.
Right, we can do that now, so she can move forward with us.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yes. Okay.
Because I propose we come
Sarah Shear, is this in order?
She reported to be answered the committee as a member of the council. Yeah.
No, I had to be co-opted onto the finance committee. Although with the view to the...
I don't think it's a co-option. I
No,
think
it's not really
she's a
co-option.
member, but we need to make a recommendation to full house.
Yes.
Which is in a couple of weeks, that's
Yeah.
which I'm really pleased about. So are we clear what we do so that
Yes.
Rich will draft?
Yeah.
Well, Rich and I will draft a document.
It's good, but it's good to see.
Sarah will be yes.
I'm happy
with
to come down to Magdale and
Ah,
have a
Yes,
chat.
well,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Sarah does that first, and then we
Do you want to do that?
Yes,
we work,
yeah.
we
I
work
think-
on what
yeah.
so.
I don't want to miss a trick and it be too late and
Yeah.
you get too many
Yeah.
vehicles
So,
and get leads
No,
driving the
you are
field.
right, you're right, councillor, absolutely correct.
I'd like to see the first thing done.
No,
Is
we'll try.
just one sec. First
No,
thing done.
don't say just one step to the chair.
The first thing done.
That's
I can say what I want.
You can't.
You don't tell me what I'm going to
I'm
say.
not telling you
I'm
what
sorry.
I'm saying don't do it.
Forget it.
We've had plenty of time.
Forget it. We've got one point only. There's a man down there that's very seriously concerned that if we miss the first thing
That's fine.
by taking hours and hours and months over it, we'll have lost what we've
We
gained.
have already put forward what the council
You can find out from after those
Please, can we?
after those times. You find out. I think we know what we're doing.
Yeah, I
Thank you. Thanks
I
very
apologise
much.
for making it such an issue, but I think you'll find out you're wasting a lot of time.
It's strength feeling, isn't it? But we'll try and move as quickly as we can, but in some ways, as we discussed with other issues, we're in the hands of
I must say,
Kirklees officers.
in 2007, we actually Kirklees offered hunts. They did, and some of the residents were cautious of that and thinking it was unnecessary. But we revised our view on that now.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you,
Thank you,
three
sure,
of you, for
sure.
turning out in
Thank you.
numbers and giving your time. Sarah will liaise with you and then we'll
Yes,
be
thank you.
drafting a
That's
document.
great.
I think, we will be pushing for a meeting with Kirklees.
Yes.
Yeah, with Kirklees officers. And we will try and do it as quickly as possible.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Before the houses are built.
It won't be that. It's careful, easy to be houses up in the salt twice.
Well, that's going beyond.
Thank you for your time. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, let's move on. We've got loads of planning applications to pack. So next item, thank you for all that, everybody. Item 1 and 5, the list of completed Kirklees planning applications list. Okay, noted?
Noted.
Okay, thank you. Right, new planning applications. Now, unfortunately, we're without Rachel and Pat, who are pretty assiduous in looking at planning applications. So here we go. Okay, are we all ready?
Yeah.
Right. So the first one is a Walldale one, so that's you, Darryl.
That's me.
You, yes.
Yes, the links don't work to the
Oh.
planning thing, although I've looked previously. I'm fully in support of this. It's a growth
Fine.
there. Yeah.
Fine, I'm happy with that. I looked at it and I thought we'd support
Yeah,
it. So, okay,
it's a really good place.
one support.
Did other people's links not work as well? Are you on
I can't do it now.
They don't do when I click on the email just from my phone as well for some reason. I'm not sure why. If it goes to the Kirklees website and then it's got an error message on it.
Yeah, it says that the page does not exist.
I have to click and paste into there.
It has been going down.
It could be just some of the things that we use, like the browser, I don't know.
Yeah. But there was a problem with iOS, sorry, Council. There was a problem with iOS.
I think
Can we settle down?
I think one thing I don't.
Planning apps.
We get all these things now and all this computerised, doing this, doing that, doing the other, doing that. In the good old day, all the planning applications were laid out in front, and you came quarter of an hour early, went through the ones you wanted to look at, you saw the plans, you understood them, and everything was easy. But because now we have this modern technology, it's not at all easy.
Right, let's move on. The next number 2 is Andy, and yeah, I've got a definite view about this one. It'd be interesting to know what you think.
Yeah,
Rachel also has a view.
this is the dam head, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
For me, there are three sort of issues here. I mean, firstly, we've got safeguarded land to the west, we've got a housing development to the north, and it's on green belts. Now they're saying that they're sort of claiming it's infill in a village setting. Personally, I don't buy that. I don't think it's a village. We already know there are highways issues. We rejected, well, we opposed the mill development because of highways and the number of properties they were suggesting. This is only going to make it worse, and it's an unadopted track as well. My final point really is, I think it would negatively impact the mill development. If we're saying that site will only stand 19 properties, and these are 2 of them, if it's passed, that goes down to 17, and they would, I'm sure, say that it's not viable then. And I think it's more important that we get the mill.
Rachel's view was to object to it as well, as indeed was mine, because as you say, the claim it's infill, but it's too big. It's too big for infill.
Infill's only one house.
So
Infill's only one area.
Would that be over intensification then?
It's in green, it's green belts.
Oh, right.
So
Whether or not it's green belt or not,
it's too much.
infill, I was always told by the councillors in the years gone by, was for one and one dwelling only.
Well, in the LDP apparently it's 2 dwellings, but I mean
Is
these
it?
are 2 large dwellings. I think they're just.
And that's another point.
Which end of the end is it? This is at the middle end, going towards the fields.
Yes, it's a field.
Yes, it's just before they get.
If it was only one dwelling, would that be suitable, or would that still be?
Can we?
No.
Can we?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're saying we're objecting to this.
Shall I read out what
Yes.
Councillor Hobley said? So
Yes.
she said, objects, yes, there's an argument for infill, but it is green belt, and therefore we would generally resist development as inappropriate. If it is to go ahead, any design and size of properties should reflect the key characteristics provided for the area in the NDP.
So you're not in keeping there,
Yeah.
over intensification and in green belt.
Yeah, I'm not so keen on saying if it's to go ahead. I think I prefer just to say we object because it isn't really infill. It's intensification on the green belt.
I think there's something about if you do allow it in green belt, they have to show a need for the housing.
Yeah.
And again, these are 4-bedroom houses, isn't
Yeah.
They're not workers dwellings for the agricultural area.
Okay, are you alright? Yeah. Right. So we're opposing that one. The next one is a Waldale one, which is did you have managed to put this down?
Yeah, I walk past it every day. I'm
Okay.
against, due to if you've been down there, you'll see it's a lovely area of green amenity. There's very little green amenity on that particular road. It's near 2 junctions. It's a very, very busy road. No, there's no need for it.
So what would be the material?
There might be no need for it, but it comes in
Danger and lack of amenity, or taking away. It's just lovely to look at, and it's very close to that junction.
Is it a garden at the moment?
Eh?
Is it a garden at the moment, the site?
It is, yeah. It looks like a garden.
When it's a garden,
It's just off a roadway leading to some other houses.
I know what you mean. I had a look at it earlier.
So what would be the? I mean, because I was looking for reasons to object to this really.
if it's a garden, can it not be classified
Can we say
as?
it's over intensification?
Well, no, but if it's a garden, should it not?
It's dangerous as well. It's right opposite that junction.
Yeah, no, but if it's a garden, what I'm saying is that not making it development land? Because it's part of a dwelling. If it's part of a dwelling, it's development land, and it might not wash.
Did anyone
There has
else?
to be something
Did
strong to
anyone
get
else
it
look at
approved.
this?
It just looks dangerous if you build something there. It's got a little tiny
So-
overlay.
Right, so shall we say we oppose on the grounds of highways?
We do that every day.
Well, I'd still like to say it's a green amenity as well. So if it's climate emergency, we shouldn't be cutting down big areas like that, should we? Putting big houses on it which aren't needed. However, if it's dangerous, we're going to get it, so let's put things in. But it's just a lovely place.
Yes, but we can't.
You can't say it's a lovely
We
place.
can't say it's a
Although
lovely place.
I'd very much like to.
Okay, let's move on. 12 Station Road, Honley. Alteration of existing door to form window opening. I didn't look at this, I thought it was
Can't
okay.
say something like that.
Look,
I've got a little
it looked okay to me.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, okay, thanks, support.
Yeah.
That's four, of five. Oh, we're back with the Monaco,
Is it
which is
same
all,
one?
which is all, yes,
Yeah,
which
it's
is
smaller.
also, which is also on
They're taking 3
on
metres
the
off it.
agenda. Rachel's feeling is that we and mine, is that we continue to object and we
Yeah.
continue to push for a more sympathetic design and full consideration of alternative locations.
It wasn't the height, it was the positioning that was the thing that we felt badly about before.
Can we,
And how it says it's not appropriate.
can we use the same comments as before and refuse it?
Yeah, so we oppose. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't like to say like I'm against any film mass and stuff like that. There's a need for them, but
Yeah.
maybe
It needs to be
possibly
re-looked at, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yes, use the
But
word.
there is a desperate
Yeah,
need.
I don't want to sound like somebody like who's just like it's refusing things for the sake of it. But I don't want to be something like that. But yeah, exactly.
I think it's to keep a different location really, isn't it?
Or even a bit further
So-
back, yeah, I
Or even a bit further back. Yeah. So we're opposing that one.
Yeah.
The next one is an Uckathon one. So any thoughts?
Yeah, no, should
Support?
yeah.
That's what I thought. Support. And the next one is.
I'm signed up for that.
Place.
Yeah, this is your one thing. Do I have an interest in it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you. Yeah.
This is in my ward. I thought I could look at it tonight. It's just an extra agricultural building and extending another one. It's for agricultural purposes. It's fine. It's out in the middle of nowhere. It's not affecting
That's
anybody.
fine. Yeah.
And it's good for, it's for business as well. So yeah, support.
It's got quite a building
It's
there.
middle somewhere.
It's grown enormously.
The North Foster.
Okay. Okay, moving on, number 8, which is a listed building consent for internal and external alterations at Magdale House. So this is where we do our standard reply, which is to say that no reservation will defer to the addition of Kirklees officers.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. And the next one is Holland. Change of use of garage to offices and replacement of garage door with full height windows.
It's a full height window, is that bit of a window the height of the side of the building, the door?
I assume
Is that
so.
going to be a building in the future?
It is a building already. I thought I couldn't see any problem with this. Did anybody else have a chance to look?
I haven't looked at what does it do for parking? We're
I
using
think
the
there's
garage.
still plenty of room for parking on this one.
Sorry, I haven't looked at it.
Maybe we don't have enough information.
If storage and distribution means to me more vehicles than what there may be for officers.
Well, obviously they've not been using the building for a garage at the moment.
It's been used for
So
storage
it's been
and
used for
distribution.
storage and distribution, so it's not going to make any material
No.
difference.
What the distribution factor is does it mean there's vans and that going every
Well, it
day?
sounds like they're running a business.
No
isn't it?
idea, I think it's a business. Yeah, it's a housing design consultancy, I did work that out.
So it's running a business and wants to
They should know
formalise
what they're doing. I thought it was, I couldn't see any problem with it really.
No,
no problem.
Support, right. And number 10 is a discharge of conditions, and again, this is a situation where we do a standard reply and defer. Is that okay? Andy?
Yeah.
I think there's too many things there for us to get involved in. It's very involved with that.
Technicalities, isn't it?
Well, they put all these conditions on for a reason, and
We're just trying to discharge the
I think leave it to them to sort it out.
Rachel raised some concerns, didn't she? But I think I'm not sure if the concerns she's raised are actually quite relevant to this particular planning application.
Yeah, I mean, those concerns are about road safety.
They're about road safety, that's what I was thinking.
It's bad down there. Getting passing places might be very difficult to put in.
But none of the,
I mean, you know what it was, I went down with it. It's not good down there.
Presumably they've already had planning off for something.
They're planning for something,
Yes,
but these
yeah, so
are something else that's been
These
discussed.
conditions.
yes, this is.
There's ATV club access.
Yes, they've had planning,
and things
yeah,
like
planning,
that. I don't know.
planning application granted, but with several conditions, so this is just to sign off that they've actually complied with the conditions, but it's too technical really for us to cover.
No, and the point was it's a bit late to sort of,
Yeah, to
say we don't agree with the planning permission,
it's
been
yeah, it's
granted.
too late to be granted, it's too late.
It's probably when we put some building and they've got nowhere for the storage to go.
Okay, next one is Honey South, which is within a conservation area, extension of existing garage. And what was a very peculiar looking stone feature, I already has the water feature, pretty hideous. But Kirklees Conservation Design were okay with it, so I thought it was, I didn't see any problem with it really. It didn't seem to be affecting any of the households.
But it's a conservation area, it's Oakfield, isn't it?
It's a conservation area, but
Can we not-
conservation and design officers are okay with it.
So don't just defer it to them.
Yeah.
It's contact, I don't know.
I think we can still support.
Okay, I don't want to support it.
You don't want to support it?
No, it's in a conservation area. I don't like touching anything in conservation areas. Within reason. I'd rather defer it without enough information.
Can we approve subject to conservation officer approval?
Yes, please.
Okay, support, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they are okay with it.
Well, and the
Should be okay.
Yeah. That's how feeling this isn't a great process. When you get 33, what else can you do? So the next one is the former St Andrew's Church on Mary Lane, which is another Waldale one.
That's fine. Yeah, there's loads of land
That's fine.
currently.
Yeah.
Yeah, they'll end up parking on the road if you don't.
Yeah. You okay with that one? I thought it was alright too, so support.
I thought it was nice and green, that land there.
Is the church next to it listed?
Well, I don't know, but they've totally dug up everything that was there.
I
So
thought it would be, so
it's a building
The
site.
roof was off last time I looked.
they might have to, well,
Looks like a bomb site.
they might have to make sure that it fits in with the church, well, with the listed building, I suppose. I haven't looked at the plan, so I don't know what the garage looks like.
It's quite a way, the garage is sort of closer to the road, it's quite away from
It's
the
like-
church.
Yeah,
so-
I'm trying to think, because
yeah.
they've got a big caravan there at the moment, haven't they?
Yeah.
So the garage is quite a bit away from it. Because I was thinking when you look at the church, you see the big windows there, and if you were to have like some ugly looking garage next to it, it kind of distracts
It's
from
been
the...
keeping, isn't it?
Yeah. Subject to keeping then, so...
And tucked out the way some.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree about keeping the cars away, yeah. From the road.
Right, number 13 and 14 are linked, and they're listed buildings. So again, it's our standard reply. Okay.
Yeah.
For both of them.
Yes.
What goes to solicitor building?
Yeah.
I'll say I like the roof on it.
You don't?
Zinc.
Oh, zinc.
That's not fitting across the building, is it?
No, on a listed building. Well,
No.
I think we should comment on that if that's councillor's view, rather than just leave it to them and let them do it, that we feel that the material, the roofing material for the extension is not in keeping.
Rachel is Rachel's, yeah, councillor is happy to support the principle.
We support the principles, but that's a main factor.
Looks very different to the rest of the house which is listed. Very different.
So they should really take it up, shouldn't
No, they shouldn't put it down.
they? Sorry, yeah.
You've got to assume that the listed buildings people will pick this up, won't they?
Yes.
Yeah, but they might have these new fancy ideas, or they might say that it's got some material in it that does something.
I think Paul's right to highlight it.
Yeah.
Okay, so we deferring to conservation but highlighting the fact that we're
Yes.
raising concerns about the use of the materials used.
Yeah.
And the environmentally friendly as well. And in keeping.
That's true, it might be one of the most environmentally friendly materials possible.
The rubber sinking.
With a lot of listed building. So the next one, 15 is the another listed building, 69 Waldale Road.
We'll defer that.
So defer, okay. Stand to file.
That's the building.
Yeah,
The next one is.
and the next one as well, thanks. Right, and then we've got the pub in the middle of Conway.
Who house?
Yes, so right in the middle of Conway.
What's the numbers?
I don't know.
Mm,
It's
don't
a new-
go
it's a new
upstairs.
Irish pub, obviously.
The Irish pub.
Is it a pub?
Yeah, it's a pub, bar, yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
I thought one gone to our street and
Well, I think it
gone
was
to our
a-
street around back.
I used to sit in the hairdresser's and look over it, and it was an absolute mess, and it kind of tidied it up and made it look. I mean, I had no objection really to the signage, which seemed to be fairly discreet. Did you manage to look at it or not really, Sarah? No, I thought the signage was quite discreet. The thing I wasn't too happy about was the plastic canopy. I can thought that looked a bit.
It's conservation there, isn't it? So
Is it overlooking?
No, it's not overlooking. No. So, could you go on his way with support, but draw attention to the materials, plastic canopy?
Is
That's number 18.
That's 17.
So you can move on.
Is on 18, if we look into both together more or less,
18 is the
direction of illuminated and non-illuminated signs, is that within keeping?
I think, yes, I
Have
think
we
we've
got
got,
any illuminated signs in on that?
there are some, aren't there, the core, but I think it's quite discreet. They look quite small and they're kind of like traditional Irish,
Irish sign.
text and knots and that kind of thing. It looks okay to me. I feel okay with the signs. It's number 17, which is the yeah.
It has to be in keeping. It is a conservation area, as you said.
It is, yes. So
You don't want to keep
shall
it
we?
nasty.
We don't want it
So
to be-
shall we say we support, but concerns about the material
I'm
then?
saying no support.
Again, I've not looked at this, but
Maybe
are there issues with noise? You're moving the pub outside, aren't you?
This isn't about the licensing, it's, I see, yeah.
I was afraid to go down.
Fitting the
I mean, we had a
outside.
similar discussion
Yeah.
about Farmers Arms,
We did,
Where-
yeah.
you know, they've
Yes.
extended the pub
Yeah.
outside and
Yeah.
I don't know.
There's nothing,
Maybe-
there's nothing kind of in front of the road, because the road is on both sides, two sides of the road. I don't think, I wouldn't have thought noise was a problem in quite the same way.
Well, did any response from Pat about it?
No, she couldn't manage to, she's away and she did try to, but she was defeated by the IT, I'm afraid.
So we'll have to prove in line with it being environmentally friendly again. and in a conservation area.
Okay. So are we going to say we're objecting or are we supporting?
Can they think of some alternative
Yeah,
material that we
please.
can?
Oh, so support, but raise concerns about
Materials, isn't
the
it?
Well,
materials.
does that mean we'll just go ahead and say, yeah, we thought about it, but we're not going to do it? So maybe we should object,
No,
subject to,
I don't think we've got any real reason to object.
it's a conservation area. So we should really just keep it the same, conserve it.
Well,
Is that what's the building officers?
we are a bit short of information on that one, I
So
thought.
maybe we should
So I would
say-
say perhaps we don't comment.
Do we decide it
on
due to
that.
lack of information?
Okay,
So,
no,
so we're not commenting at all?
we're not commenting.
No.
Refer to the conservation officer.
No comment due to.
That's on number 70, sorry Rich, that's
Oh,
on
no,
number
it's fine.
7, that's on number 17. Number 18, I think the signs are okay, so, and they're quite discreet and quite small. I would support those. Is that people okay?
So refuse 17, no comment on 17,
No
and
comment on
support
17 and
18.
support 18, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Number 19, Dan House, this was one Rachel commented on. She supports it.
Subject to materials, yeah?
I thought it was okay.
Yeah, subject to material, yeah.
And people don't think about materials. If they put on here, we have thought about materials, it'd be a lot easier.
Well, you don't, you can't, it's not a nice house, I don't wish to damage it.
Yeah, I'm sure it should be a bit
And,
big to be, oh, sorry,
yeah.
that last one.
I mean, you can always see what the materials are always outlined on the.
Yeah, I can't access it.
I
And see what they are.
Right. Well, I usually check, so I didn't think there was.
Okay,
I
good.
didn't think there was a
Tell you
problem.
what, right.
Right. Right, next one is ours, Paul.
I think what we've got here again,
Will
if
you-
somebody wanted to work from home, they're going to build a bigger garage and they're going to have a room over, which will be an office. And I don't think in that position it is there, I don't think it's going to be a problem.
I would agree with you, that was support that one.
There's a lot of extensions to go.
But that's the thing, you see, now everybody's wanting to have offices at home,
The next
something in the
one.
sky and not there.
The next one, 21, is actually also number 11, so we've already had that one. Now the next one, I realised over this.
Yeah, it's a funny one.
I've actually looked at Sykes' sale material, there's got lots of photographs on it. It's absolutely lovely building.
Suppose to send book
I
into
think it's an amenity building almost, isn't it? It's
Is
just
it for sale? Is he selling that one?
Which one?
Mavin Bridge.
Manor Ridge Farm,
I think we might have sold it a long time since.
Affluent Lane. When I found it again.
Oh, no, it's not in the minute, I don't know if we have.
It
No.
sort of amused me because we
No,
now
I think it's when they bought it.
we now know where Oscar's bedroom is and Zachary's bedroom. They were, instead of being labelled bedroom 1, bedroom 2, bedroom 3.
Right.
And it's about.
Well, did Robert put that on the particulars?
No,
No,
it's-
it's on the
It's all right.
on the particulars.
Sorry.
I don't know. Carol.
no, I don't think you should knock it down, it's nice.
You don't think you should knock it down?
No.
It's the barn. It's the pastoral domestic. It's the house. There's a farm and then
Yeah,
there's a
yeah.
barn with one of these very long roofs, which is a beautiful, huge room
It's a lovely building, isn't it?
inside. It's a lovely building. It's not.
It's a two-storey sign and rear
Yeah.
extension, well, it's a hell of an extension.
It's not.
It's an extension that they're wanting on that, making the house bigger, isn't it? And the only way they can make the house bigger is to demolish some buildings that's there. The other thing you could expect is that the barn, if it's such as it is, could be made into further accommodation anyway.
It's already part of the house with one huge room and yes.
Is there any planning reasons why we can't?
Well, this was my problem.
I haven't seen this
Yeah.
one, but I'd imagine it's a farm.
Mm.
'Cause
It was a
farm, but
Yeah.
farms normally got quite a bit of space around them and quite a bit of land around them.
Yeah.
And we can't just refuse it because it's a nice building, unfortunately.
No.
Nice building.
But
Yeah.
we can't refuse it for that reason. And
No.
if there's plenty of space and it's not really affecting anybody around it, and they want to do this, it's up to them. Really.
Yeah.
I mean, unless there's a really good planning reason, there's not much we can do because it doesn't look like it's listed or anything like like that, so it's conservation area, so it might be a bit snookered really.
Well, that's what I thought, because I've put support, can't find a reason to object.
Yeah, that's unfortunately the case sometimes. Like, we don't have to like plans, it's quite often that's the case, but we can't find a reason to refuse it, and we can't do.
I think we can't, so I think I was trained.
Yeah.
I think we'll
Oh,
support.
I've been there before.
Yeah, I'm sure. Right, number 23 is a variation of conditions,
Conservation, yeah.
which is within the conservation area, and variation on previous plans. I would suggest we refer this to the
Conservation area.
conservation
Yeah.
area.
They wanted all the plans for it down, so it's totally different.
Okay, right. 8 ride nights. 4, yes, small extension is Rachel, she happy with it, I was happy with it, anyway. Andy's happy with it, so, right. 25 is, Folkestone.
Yeah, have a look at this one, because I look at the
Yeah.
Folkestone ones.
Thanks.
I know this one well, where it is, but I've looked at the plans, and both plans just say existing, they don't really say what they're going to do. But it looks like they're demolishing the buildings which are there at the moment and building a new agricultural building there. So I can't see what they are. I can see the buildings that are planned to demolish and what's trying to do. They're all
Yeah.
buildings. And
All that rusted zinc, wasn't it?
The mess.
so I don't really, I'm not against building new agricultural buildings there. I'm not against them getting rid of what's there at the moment, but with the plans you can't really see what they're doing. So in theory I'm in favour of it. Did you look at it?
I did look at it, yeah, no, I couldn't work out.
Your buildings that they're taking down,
They're
it
all
was an old piggery where Derek would keep a few pigs.
They're all really tin, they're really rusty. I mean,
And they're a mess, and it could do with being tidied up, and I think if you look at other ones, just on the road where these lads brothers is, he's got some new farm buildings, and they look a lot tidier and a lot more sympathetic, and I think we should support the application.
Yeah.
Would you be happy to support it?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
We're not looking at it, but I think in theory
We can't make it any worse.
And we don't have that's doing that.
They can't make it any worse than what it is now.
Another family that I kind of involved with it, and I know that they are keen farmers and that, so it would be.
Are they?
Proper families.
Other members of family are keen for that.
Right, anyway.
Right, let's move on, thank you. So number 26, which is only one. Very big extension, which is almost doubling the floor area of this, and I wasn't, this one, so I wasn't able to come to a conclusion about this one, so did anybody else look at the...
It's a doubling floor area, we're going to then put an extension above it and make it double.
Yeah, it was a single...
It could be too big, couldn't
It's a
it?
single story extension.
Do you think it's going to be too big then?
Well, it did just about double the size.
Is there room for it on site?
Yes, there is room for it. I just think we just support it.
Is it actually keeping?
It doesn't look too bad.
Okay.
Okay, support.
Can't do anything.
Okay, so we're going to stop copy now, right? Number 27, which is up at the Butcher's Arms. It's the building consent, so that's
It's
a
just
standard
extraction.
line.
Yeah,
Are you okay with that?
This is my ward. There was a problem with the extractor fan.
Yeah.
I think some of the locals right on some of the houses and they were complaining about the noise it was making and various things. Or it would make. There's been some kind of problems with it. So anyway, it looks like they're taking out one of the extractor fans and they've got it going through the roof instead or something like that. So it looks like they kind of found a solution to the problem.
It ran a previous application, that one.
Yeah, it was refused on the previous application.
Right.
But so this is, I'd imagine it's trying to fix the problems. So I'll refer it to the Wilson Building Offices.
I think it's quite complex. You don't know lots about exhausts and
Yeah, you have to look at the plans.
Let's defer.
You have to kind of. If I wasn't aware of this problem, I would have found it hard to find the difference between the two plans. To be honest,
Have you got those site meetings?
I've been there a few weeks ago. Got some big ones.
Did you mean the Jane Cook?
Yeah.
No, we'd always do, we let them know what we're doing and then they can invite us in for a free beer if we want.
So this is can do that, but the beers are supposed to be expensive now anyway.
No, that'll be 320.
Oh, right, okay.
Right, so that's number 20, that's number 28 as well, which is right. The next one is you and I down, Paul.
Yeah.
Okay,
Any red brick outhouse to be removed
fine.
and to be with something better. As long as the materials are better than what is there now, I have no objection.
Yeah, not to, so support, okay. Yeah, and then number 30, which is this is the big call on the main road. This one is.
It's a canopy, isn't it?
It's a canopy, yes. Yeah.
So they just put an application to erect a new canopy when
It looked.
it's been a bomb site for a week, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's a massive great.
Now they've found out
massive
they've got
great
a
wall
new-
at the moment.
Is it
Yeah.
just going to the same premise as what it was before?
Yes, it looked quite slender really. It looked, you know, it
It's
looked.
an afterthought then, because they've been under it, haven't they, for weeks?
Yeah,
It
it's supposed to be
didn't,
done by now.
it didn't,
Yeah.
probably an afterthought. It might be something that has cropped up and they thought, well, if we're going to have to do so and so when they've been doing the works on the ground. As you say, yes, an afterthought, but it might be that it's been forced upon them by some construction.
I'd support it. I mean, it looked, you know, as these things can look
We
quite
want- we
elegant.
want
I
it
thought
to-
it
we
was
want it to
quite
open and running.
a slender thing.
We want as many petrol stations in all valves as possible.
Right, next one, 31 is full stone, a full stone one. Would you have a chance?
Yeah, I looked at this one.
Yeah.
Like I said, middle of nowhere. Looks to be replaced with a bit. It's fine.
Okay, support.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Just refer to code, please. It's a removal condition, so I imagine they've done the works they need to do and they're just getting it ticked off. So refer to code, please.
Defer to code, please.
Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah, thank you. Another phone. Did you have a chance to look at this one?
No, that's right. That's the garage, isn't it? No, you know.
For Wesley Avenue. I had a look. I thought it was
Looking at where's they having,
unexceptional and
it's not going to be good because, all right, they might not park in the garage, put a car in the garage and they wanted to utilise the space, but I don't think up there there's not the room, is there?
West Avenue is very small, isn't it?
Yeah. Properties are small and the ground areas are small.
I have a thing about garages.
should we say
What you don't use.
I just think parking's a huge problem everywhere, but
Yeah.
particularly in North Valley and anything that's...
Yeah.
well should we say support provided that
I don't know whether we should support it.
adequate parking
There's a,
space?
no, there's a big problem now, and this is
It's right on-
this is with the garage situation. 90% of the houses that have got garages that aren't big enough for the cars that go in now.
It's right on,
And that's the problem. The size of the cars have gone up.
Has anybody got sight of the plan at the moment? Because I thought the garage was.
I can't access the plan, but I know where the house
Have you
is.
got it, Tom?
No, I can't look at it. 93527.
It's right on the junction. So if they don't park in the garage, they'll have to stick it either on Dean Avenue or on Wesley Avenue itself. It's on Wesley
I didn't think there
Avenue.
was. I can't exactly remember that's where they were. I didn't think there was a problem with that.
The problem with them small ones up there is if you have a garage at the side of the house, you've got to either back into it or you've got to draw into it and back out onto the
Right.
road. And
Okay.
it's not good.
You got it there.
Yes, just load that down.
Thanks.
Existing garage and demolished. So it's quite a big driveway to get down to it, isn't it?
Yeah.
Looks as if.
Yeah.
So there should be no space in that driveway
Yeah.
to fit all cars on, I imagine, anyway. And I don't think they probably use the garage to keep the cars in, like, not many people
It's
do.
not the only garage on the street, is it?
Okay.
There's one next to it, I thought it was
Support.
next door. We'll
Right.
see the plans.
We'll
Yeah.
support that. Yeah. Thank you so much. Sorry, that was a bit of a mouthful, wasn't it? Right, we've still got bits to do, of course. Moving on, item 107, Kirklees planning officers' decisions. We've all had them. Don't we just note that?
Noted.
Yeah.
Noted, thank you. I think we're getting quite assertive, I think. We objected to 4 that Kirkby has actually approved, those were I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Right, now, there's a long screed on your agendas about neighbourhood planning.
Yeah.
So, I assume you've read it all, so,
Yeah.
so the public referendum is fast approaching on Thursday, 4th of November, yes, I checked, I queried with Rachel what was the form of this, and evidently it's just exactly the same as a local election, like a Kirklees election, so people will be getting poll cards and be postal voting and in-person voting in the same way. And it is a formal legal process, and none of it's under our control. So all we need to do is note this. Are you happy? No?
So,
Does anybody question? Sorry.
will there be like polling stations then, like at the local schools? So they'll have to shut the schools down and things?
I guess so,
This.
yes.
Yeah, it's a referendum, yeah.
Like the thing with this, like when I always thought we were doing the neighbourhood plan, like we always planned to kind of have the referendum on the same day as when you do the elections, because that way you always guarantee a good turnout because people are going there to vote anyway. So, wow, so we're going to shutting things down and all this kind of stuff,
Yes.
big thing.
Because you may.
And probably very few people will go and vote. But anyway, that's not my problem.
No.
So,
I'm really pleased it's coming to an end.
Yeah.
It's been going on for donkeys.
is it right that it's more than 50% of those who vote?
Yes, so if only
So if we only got 2 people voted, sorry, 3 people voted, 2 voted for it, the majority would win.
Yeah.
Oh well, why do we close off polling stations? Let's just let's have a postal vote for everybody.
I'm surprised they don't do that, but then people will complain that it's corrupt and they can't vote themselves, won't they? So
I think most people, as indeed I didn't really realise that it was like the full process of, as in a local election with schools voting, polling stations, postal votes and so on. So I think people will be a bit surprised.
It'll be the first time there's been a referendum vote in my time at council. I don't think there's ever been one. I know there was an uproar in Cawthorne once when they had one in Cawthorne. It was an uproar.
So can we note that, please? That's the first thing to note. The second thing to note that Parish Council had a grant of 2,100 from the locality to create publicity, Rachel drafted a leaflet and both Richard and I suggested some.
She's the one who's scared it all, and she's the one who's done it all. Leave her.
So we're noting that the success of the grant. You okay?
Yeah.
Thank you. And then we need to consider that the outlet up to the limit of 2,100 to be approved to cover the costs of the flyer. Approved. Thank you. Can you second that? Thank you. Thanks, Andy. Right. Okay. Right. To note, the website's being updated to provide the necessary neighbourhood development plan information. Can we note that?
Well,
And it's been done. Thanks, Richard. Okay, and then there's to note finally that we've got some more money to secure additional technical support which is required. And there's no cost associated with that. And that piece of work will be finished before the referendum, before the 4th of November. Right, and it does occur to me that we all probably need training at some point in the neighbourhood development plan, because we're going to have to then use that when we're looking at planning applications. And I think it's quite a good read, but it's quite a weighty document, so we'll need to spend a bit of time. So I should talk to Rachel about that.
Kirklees have been referring to it already, haven't they?
They have, yeah.
Which I thought
It's good.
was surprised, isn't it? But that's a pleasant surprise.
Yeah, I think that's really good.
But they won't take notice of us anyway.
But it might make it easier for that problematic.
They'll have to do. They'll have to take consideration of it.
Yeah.
And then if they go against it and somebody does like a legal objection against it, they can say that in breach of the plans, which are for
Yeah, well, they're more money than we have, and they'll fight us to death.
Well,
I know about it, honestly.
the parish council response to the, yeah, do we know that?
Noted.
Yeah.
Thank you. Further, oh, we've already dealt with this really. So further pre-planning consultation, we're back with this mass, it seems to be recurring with
Noted.
terrible, yeah, to note Richard's actions. Thank you. And then we've got, again, to note, we still haven't, yes, we sent a pretty lengthy document, which is in your pack, with the issues, well, pretty much the same as the Mandel thing, really, which
Well,
we
this
put
is
together.
this is Woodhead Road, Homebridge to Home,
Yes.
which that road isn't just a single track like Magdale. It's a double road. I don't think we could look at Woodhead Road in the same light as we could Magdale. My concern is that you've got a road there with a bus route on it, and it is used by HGV vehicles, whereas Magdale doesn't qualify for that, so the double win.
No, they're actually different issues, aren't they? Which
I think they're totally different, and if we're to try and get one and the other in on the same, if we're going to do anything, we should be doing it individually.
Can we just, if we just move on to the next one, which is a Hayedge intersection, and then which we're still waiting for a meeting with Liz Twitchett. So Richard's been trying to sort this out.
Yeah, I've got no response. Yeah,
Still waiting.
So that,
How long is it since this lady's had the bereavement? Is it a long time?
well, yeah,
Yeah, it is.
over a month.
Well, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, is anyone else disappointed with the speed or lack of speed, like an urgency with this?
Is there anything else you can help?
I mean, this is
with?
July the 12th,
Mm.
the Hayedge really to complain about this,
Yeah,
and we can't even get someone to
we
talk
can't
to.
let something know.
I really do find it unacceptable.
Well, it
It's
is.
difficult case, isn't it?
It is unacceptable.
They see there's going to be some work and some
When
problems
did
for
you
them,
last?
so they
When
try
did
to
you last
defer it and make it go away.
Is it too early to be inquiring again?
Well, it was when I was drafting,
When you were
so it got
drafting
up
this,
like
so
a
it
week ago.
It was probably a bit too early to I would have thought. Yes, so we've got, and then we've got the campaign for Save the Magdale, which we've dealt with. I think it's the point that Paul's made, that we have kind of three issues to do with road safety together, but they are all different really. So I don't.
They've all got different aspects.
Yeah, I don't think there could be a standard way of dealing with them all
One
together. I think
meeting
my
wouldn't work.
my preference, yeah, it would be to keep them separate.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that? Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, thanks. Right, the planning application at 49 Ryefields, I think somebody went home quite happy with the outcome of that discussion.
I think what we've seen on the ground, because of the request of the lady, Mary's made a report to us, and that wouldn't be acceptable, and that it's within our rights to say to Kirk, please, we've had further information, and that our view of it not causing a problem with overlooking, we feel that this application will overlook, and on that jurisdiction, we would have opposed it before, I mean, not being aware of the full facts, and we're now aware of the full facts, and that leave it to the officers to make the decision.
Yeah, that was good, thanks.
She's gone away happy, but we're doing what we can.
Yes, yeah. And
It's still up to Kirklees officers to make the decision.
I mean, we do what we can, don't we?
Yeah.
Right, the planning appeal, now, this Elysium Barn, I guess most of us know this, I certainly know this. And I have to say, I wasn't happy when Parish Council approved this. It was a long time ago, 4th of November 2019, when some of us were fairly new and might have said more or less had it been a little later. So obviously the Kirklees turned it down. The reasons were for harming the openness of the green belt, and there were no special circumstances to justify building in the green belt. Poor access along that old Maidle Road. It's a lovely place. So I mean.
But which farm is this one? Is this the one?
Do you know where Elysium?
You know where Elysium Farm is?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Further down on the left-hand side.
Yeah. Where the style is.
Yeah, it's one
Yeah,
of
just before the start. Yeah, just before the start.
there is for information. That, but I didn't. I'm looking it now and thinking, well, strange. I can't remember that. But that Elysium barn, I sold for the previous owners because they had tried twice to get planning permission for their children to have it as an agricultural dwelling, and it was refused way back.
Is this one of Tim Kirk? This one?
Tim Kirk may own it now, but it belonged to the Wiles family, and they wished to get it passed, and then they got fed up and left it, and it got sold.
So Kirklees
And I think Tim bought it, I'm not sure.
Kirklees turned it down, and it's obviously gone for appeal. So we're being asked to consider whether we make a response.
Your view is that
Well, my view is probably quite
your
clear,
view
isn't it?
is that Kirklees' decision to refuse it for that reason was
Yes.
right.
It is. That is my
And
view.
is
Yes, I don't
that
think there's anybody
is
has.
that it?
grounds, Mary?
Why Kirklees
The
turned it down?
how would you turn it down? What are our grounds? If we're going to say we think Kirkley should stick with their refusal because
Well, I guess we agree with what they're saying, that it's harmful to the green belt, and that it's turning a field, agricultural land into a garden, and that the access along the track. I mean, those
highways issues. So previously we approved it, but now we're saying we should refuse it.
Well, I think perhaps we don't say anything. I think perhaps we just don't engage in the.
We'll leave it there.
So we've got no further comment then.
My suggestion is to just leave it be.
Okay, fair enough. As I say, if you felt strongly about it, Chair, I'm willing to say maybe we should submit new comments saying that we don't like it for whatever reason, but.
Then we just say we agree.
Yeah, we agree with Kirklees. We agree with the comments from the previous Kirklees refusal. You can have that in if you want.
If it's green,
Do people
just
want?
leave it.
Yeah, I mean, I would be very happy if that was the decision of
I
the
would put something a
committee.
bit stronger and say it's
Yeah.
green.
There's nothing wrong with changing our minds about something. If you feel strongly about it.
It's brownfield within the green belt. It isn't just green belt because it's a stone building. It has been used for agricultural purposes in the past,
I mean, we
and
can.
there is things like that, which means that it has been in some time in its life a brownfield site.
Andy.
I think I'd go along with the suggestion of just not saying anything.
Yeah, it's probably not worth it.
Yeah, we've supported it in the past. It looks a bit silly, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Now,
I mean, we
back
can't.
to change your mind.
Yeah, we're not bound by our previous decisions.
You can
we've got-
respectfully view things, so can't you?
We
Right.
can.
If the tweet is totally different,
That's
because
fair.
3 years ago, but in this case, we should.
Well, it may not go.
So I think the majority feeling is that we just don't engage in the in the planning process. I agree with you, Richard. That's good for you. Okay. Right, and then finally money, and it's really only expenditure related to the NDP, which is this. Things are very easy for finance for this committee. And Rachel's view is that we perhaps have to put in a nominal 2k really for now.
What do we
Just as a
know?
K. There was about, was it 5,000?
Five last few
Yeah.
years, yeah.
And we've not used it.
Yeah.
We've used 3,000 of it this year.
Well, why shouldn't we put 5,000 in for next year?
Because
If it's finished,
Because
that's
the
the only one.
NDP process is nearly over, and if people are wanting grants to carry out projects under the kind of banner of the NDP, then maybe that should be handled by an F&M rather than the
Yes.
committee. So we just put 200 in as a holding.
No, 2,000.
2,000. Sorry, that's 2,000.
You're against reducing the budget down there?
No?
Wow, I'm just shocked by that. I'm just shocked that you were
I'm just saying, we put about 5,000 in before, why don't we keep 5,000 in now?
Right.
It's one of the things that we can reduce the budget by.
Okay, so I
Right,
think we need a resolution
You
for that.
propose that £2,000.
£2,000. Somebody second that, thank you, Andy. That's it then. Thank you so much. How are we doing?
Well done, Chair. Very good job.
Thank you very much.